July 1st, 2026. It was supposed to be a quiet date on the royal calendar, the kind of day marked behind closed doors, hidden from the flashes of paparazzi cameras, and passed over in absolute public silence. It was the day Diana, Princess of Wales, would have turned 65. Kensington Palace had no ceremony planned. There was no official portrait released to the press, no formal statement drafted by PR teams. But by the time the sun set over London that evening, the day belonged to someone nobody had scripted for it at all. Princess Charlotte, just 11 years old, did something so small, so breathtakingly unguarded, that the adults around her could not stop talking about it. And when the details of this private moment finally slipped out to the public, they landed with a heavy emotional weight nobody expected from a child. This is not a story about a manufactured palace tribute. It is the story of a granddaughter who never got to meet the legendary woman she was named after, and what happened when she was finally given the chance to know her. Stick around, because the details of what happened inside those palace walls on July 1st will change the way you look at the royal family forever. For nearly 30 years, the British monarchy has struggled with an impossible question: who gets to decide how Diana is remembered? For decades, her legacy was heavily managed, carefully curated statements, approved photographs. For most of Princess Charlotte's life, Diana has simply been a name, a beautiful portrait hanging on a wall, a bedtime story told carefully by adults, protecting a young mind from a tragic reality. But an 11-year-old is no longer a little kid, and the first sign that things were changing came weeks before the birthday itself. On June 13th, at Trooping the Colour, the world's eyes were on the balcony, but fashion writers and eagle-eyed royal watchers noticed a tiny, deliberate detail. Charlotte was wearing a 3-strand pearl bracelet. It wasn't just any piece of jewelry. It was a striking, unmistakable echo of the Nigel Milne design created in 1988 for the Birthright charity, a piece worn famously and frequently by Diana throughout the late 80s. Catherine, Princess of Wales, wore the authentic piece that day, but right beside her, little Charlotte wore a matching version, an invisible string pulling 3 generations of women together. The press called it a sweet, quiet tribute, but nobody realized it was just the beginning. Diana, Princess of Wales, was born on July 1st, 1961. She died on August 31st, 1997, at just 36 years old. Charlotte, born in 2015, was separated by her grandmother by 18 years of grief. According to sources close to the royal household, Catherine and William have made a deliberate, conscious effort to keep Diana present in their children's lives, not as a solemn, untouchable historical figure, but a real person they are allowed to ask about freely. And on the morning of July 1st, 2026, Charlotte started asking. The events of that day unfolded in 3 parts, each one quieter than the last, and each one somehow heavier. First, the bracelet. Insiders reveal that Charlotte specifically asked to wear her pearl bracelet again that morning, not for a camera, not for a royal engagement. It was, for all intents and purposes, just an ordinary Wednesday at home. There was absolutely no reason for the pearls to leave their box. But she wanted them anyway. It was a profound psychological shift. This wasn't a stylist dressing a royal child for the public. This was a young girl deciding entirely on her own how she wanted to carry the weight of the day.
But wearing the bracelet wasn't enough.
The second detail is where the story shifts from a touching tribute into something deeply emotional. Later that day, Charlotte reportedly approached her mother, Catherine, with a very specific request. She didn't want to hear about the global icon who shook hands with presidents. She asked Catherine to tell her something about Diana that she had never heard before. She wanted a piece of her grandmother that didn't belong to the history books. Catherine obliged. She bypassed the famous headlines and instead described an ordinary afternoon, pulling from the private family memories William had shared with her, the kind of tiny human details that never make it into a royal biography. According to a royal insider, Catherine told Charlotte about a secret, quiet habit Diana had. Whenever she found a beautiful flower, Diana wouldn't just put it in a vase, she would carefully press it between the heavy pages of her favorite books to preserve it forever. It was a tiny, fragile detail, but for an 11-year-old girl, it was a revelation. It was the exact moment Diana stopped being a name on a page and became a person. And then came the third part, the moment that shattered the polished royal exterior. Upon hearing the story of the pressed flowers, Princess Charlotte looked at her mother and asked if she could try it herself, using flowers from the garden that very afternoon. A source close to the family described what happened next. The room simply went quiet. More than one adult present in the household was forced to step away, visibly fighting back tears. It wasn't because the act of pressing a flower is inherently sad, it was because of who was asking and why. One insider who spoke to the British press said it was the closest anyone in that house had come to feeling like Diana was actually standing in the room with them. Prince William has spent his entire adult life fighting to ensure his mother is remembered as a human being, not just a headline. What happened on July 1st is the ultimate proof that he has succeeded, not because he forced it, but because his daughter reached out for a grandmother she never had, armed with nothing but a pearl bracelet, a flower, and a question. For 30 decades, the world has insisted on managing the ghost of Princess Diana. Institutions, biographers, and the media have all tried to own her story. But that era is quietly coming to an end. Diana never reached her 65th birthday. She never got to see her grandchildren grow up. But her legacy no longer lives in the cold marble of palace statues or carefully typed press releases. It lives in a little girl who wears her jewelry without being asked, who presses flowers between the pages of her books, and who asks the kind of questions no biography can ever answer. Somewhere in that quiet, unscripted afternoon in London, a woman who has been gone for nearly 30 years became, for a 11-year-old girl, entirely real. If this story touched your heart, please leave a like and share your favorite memory of Princess Diana in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives into the stories the palace doesn't put in their press releases. Until next time.